Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Philosophy in the Forest. I'm Shasta, and I'm joining you from the very edge of the forest, where the forest meets the beautiful Pacific Ocean. And today, I will be reading from Thich Nhat Hanh's The Heart of Buddha's Teaching, and I will be actually talking about the Four Noble Truths. After realizing complete, perfect awakening, the Buddha had to find words to share his insight. He already had the water, but he had to discover jars like the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path to hold it. The Four Noble Truths are the cream of the Buddha's teaching. The Buddha continued to proclaim these truths right up until his great passing away. The Chinese translate Four Noble Truths as Four Wonderful Truths, or Four Holy Truths. Our suffering is holy if we embrace it and look deeply into it. If we don't, it isn't holy at all. We just drown in the ocean of our suffering. For truth, the Chinese use the characters for word and king. No one can argue with the words of the king. These four truths are not something to argue about. They're something to practice and realize. The first noble truth is suffering, dukkha. The root meaning of the Chinese character for suffering is bitter. Happiness is sweet. Suffering is bitter. We all suffer to some extent. We have some malaise in our body and our mind. We have to recognize and acknowledge the presence of this suffering to touch it. To do so, we may need the help of a teacher and friends in practice. The second noble truth is the origin, roots, nature, creation, or arising of suffering. After we touch our suffering, we need to look deeply into it and see how it came to be. We need to recognize and identify the spiritual and material foods we've ingested that cause us to suffer. The third noble truth is cessation of creating suffering by refraining from doing things that make us suffering. This is good news. The Buddha did not deny the existence of suffering, but he also did not deny the existence of joy and happiness. If you think that Buddha says everything is suffering and we cannot do anything about it, that is the opposite of the Buddha's message. The Buddha taught us how to recognize and acknowledge the presence of suffering, but he also taught the cessation of suffering. If there were no possibility of ending suffering, what is the use of practicing? The third noble truth is that healing is possible. The fourth noble truth is the path that leads to refraining from doing the things that cause us to suffer. This is the path we need the most. The Buddha called it the Noble Eightfold Path. The Chinese translate it as path of 8 right practices: right view, right thinking, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right diligence, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day.